This is Caffeinated Risk, the podcast for security professionals by security professionals. Here are your two self-proclaimed grumpy security guys, Tim McCreate and Doug Leese.
Welcome, folks, to Season 5 of Caffeinated Risk. For our first podcast of the year, we chat with Michael Spaling, the Principal Security Architect at the University of Alberta, a top 5 research-intensive university in Canada, ranked among the top 100 globally. Michael has some excellent recognitions in his security journey, like receiving the Queen's Platinum Jubilee Medal for his notable contributions to the cybersecurity industry, and making it to the top 10 under 40 list by Canadian Security Magazine. He has multiple published exploits to his credit and was the chief security officer for a startup company that was among the first to offer digitized anti-fraud services to the legal industry. Michael has a pending patent working its way through the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, and in between all that, he teaches the Advanced Network Security course in the Master of Science in Internetworking program at the University of Alberta. And now, let's check out our latest podcast with Michael Spaling.
Welcome to potentially the very last episode of 2024, or the very first one of 2025, depending on how much holidays cut into editing time. But a couple of guests here. One you'll recognize, it's Tim, our co-host, and then Michael Spaling.
Hi.
Who is a well-recognized person around Alberta in the cybersecurity world. Michael and I go way back to the very first B-Sides in Calgary.
Wow.
That's been years, yeah.
He's done nothing but impress me with his continued drive to move security forward. So I thought, what a great way to kind of wrap up the year and get a couple of real movers and shakers and contributors in this industry to talk about where we're going, what's future, and so forth.
Great.
Maybe Michael, get you to kind of introduce yourself first. Everybody's heard Tim talk lots.
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Absolutely. Well, my name's Michael Spaling. My title right now, I'm the Principal Security Architect with the University of Alberta. So it's actually a new role. I've been at the U of A for 15 years, cybersecurity from day one. Most of that has been actually in a management position. So I've spent the last 8 or so years leading our internal information security team. But as the years went by, you kind of grew from 3 to 5 to 7 direct reports. And with that number of direct reports, 10% of my time actually became cybersecurity, and 90% of my time just became kind of people management. So I love the people, I love the team, but my real true passion is like the cybersecurity and the risk aspect of what I do. So ended up switching roles, kind of took a bit of a horizontal move. I've been in this role for unofficially 5 months, officially December 1st. It's neat that I get to work with now a lot of parts of the institution that I have not historically worked with. So a lot of my work now is working with like our service design teams, our architecture teams, our process teams, service delivery teams. A lot of I would say the traditional IT side of our institution. So that's been great. It's been great to start, I would say, learning again. It's been great to still be able to work with people, but I'm not working with, I would say, purely technical staff anymore, nor do I actually get to interact with a lot of cybersecurity professionals. Like in my day-to-day job, it's now sort of injecting cybersecurity into a lot of the areas that we haven't historically done it. So that's me. That's what I do. Real quick thing, just scope and scale. People are often surprised to hear how big the U of A actually is. So we are a top 5 Canadian research-intensive university, top 100 in the world. We have, I don't know, what do we sit on? 20,000 endpoints, 60,000 BYOD, thousands of servers, 200,000 users across the globe. So it's a pretty big, robust environment, and that's me.
Awesome. Well, you apparently have a bug on my computer because you were reading all the questions I was going to ask you, and you just answered a bunch. Your cyber skills are pretty good. But if we were to just jump into the U of A, like you say, it's an internationally recognized research facility. So to me, it stands to reason that they're a target for intellectual property theft. But am I correct in assuming that a lot of this research would be kind of early stage and not immediately commercially viable?
Yeah, I would say to an extent. Intellectual property is it's something that has only really started coming up in the context of cybersecurity, like here at the U of A, probably in the last maybe 2 years. Um, Historically, when in the rare chance like an environment would be compromised to some degree, and it was on me. I would have to be the person to kind of deliver the bad news to, let's say, a researcher. In many cases, they would just kind of say, well, why did they have to compromise me? Why didn't they just send me an email? Like, I would have just given them the data, like, and like, to them, it wasn't sensitive, and they were right. Like, for example, and well, I can't really give key examples, but like you kind of look at this and be like, what is anyone possibly going to do with this? And then as the years went by, very recently it started becoming intellectual property. One of the things that universities do is we have a lot of, what I think has been referred to in the media as kind of like curiosity based research, right? People just kind of going, I wonder. And that type of research has led to all sorts of innovations and bettering of humanity. And then we also do research that's like industry driven, right? So you've got all sorts of industries across Alberta, and the university has a ton of research environments that can be used to better refine, let's say, some of their processes. So there's always going to be value, but from a strictly intellectual property perspective, one of the questions now that is being asked is, in its current form, in its current phase of research, yeah, how valuable is this, and how valuable could it be? And typically, the university is very risk adverse. So when the answer to that question is we don't know, they're gonna try to protect it, more than when they have a defined answer to that. So, yeah, and that makes it fun for us, because when we're dealing with research environments and securing them, it could be they haven't made any breakthroughs, but they could next week, or it could mean breakthroughs that were made months ago that are now currently being refined. So we just kind of look at that. To us, like, we just call it research. It's just research security, and we try our best to apply the best possible controls we can that balance the cybersecurity risks with their need to do their research, while also working with the research side to let them know, like, hey, to you, it might just be a bunch of rocks in the ground and here's some analysis data. But to someone else, maybe the techniques that you were using to do that analysis weren't thought of by others, and they could apply it to a different domain, and there is some value there. So that's kind of my initial Cole's Notes version on it. But yeah, research it's all over the map.
Wow. I can't imagine how complex that makes your job then, or how diverse you're going to have to be in the approaches when you're dealing with the clients that you're going to talk to. That's got to take up a good chunk of your day.
Oh yeah, it's quite, well, ironically, it's research in the context of us having to occasionally pull technical documents and setup guides for various things. Great example, many years ago, we had a DNA sequencer get compromised. And if you've never seen a DNA sequencer, it's, I don't know, the size of a very large mini fridge, at least the ones that I saw. They sit on these vibration proof tables, which I didn't even know existed. And they have a computer built into it, right? And at the time, it was a Windows 7 computer. So, technically it's a Windows 7 computer with a giant sequencer attached to it. And it got compromised. And the very first thing we had to do was pull the documentation for this DNA sequencer. And one of the neatest things is that on the first couple pages, it had a big disclaimer that said, "This is not an IT device. Do not give this to IT." And I'm summarizing, right? Basically, it said, do not touch this thing, right?
Wow.
Don't let your IT staff touch it. And the reason for that is a device like that comes, I would say, certified from the factory, or wherever they make it, right? They'll say, don't touch it. Do not run Windows updates. Do not run antivirus software. Do not install anything. Like, don't put this thing on a network. Just do not touch it. In its current form, it is a highly, highly sensitive piece of instrumentation. Leave it, right? And the challenge there is that if someone goes in and changes something on the device, it's no longer in a certified state. and they'll risk you risk maybe device not being supported anymore. So what actually happened was that group, they had downtime on their sequencer, and they were like, oh, we could probably do cost recovery. So they had kind of come up with this idea where we could sequence stuff for others for a cost, and then somebody said, oh, we can just automate the response process and feed the results into a website, but that meant having to plug it into a network. And the silly thing to me was like they say don't ever plug this into a network, but there's a physical network jack on it that's functional. Plug it into the network. It just happened to be on a network with DHCP, public IPs. It got a connection, and now you have a Windows 7 box on the internet that hasn't been patched in many, many, many years. And it got hosed within a day. But the neat thing was that the people that got into it, or the bots that got into it, they didn't know what they had access to. It's not like someone's explicitly targeting a DNA sequencer. They just see, oh, it's a Windows 7 computer. They throw it on a botnet, and boom, now it's just another box that can generate packets for DDoS attacks. But to answer your question, yeah, absolutely. There's been times where we're like, okay, what is this? What is that? What are these devices? Oftentimes, we've had to actually go talk to the researchers and get some idea as to what the technology is and does. We have an entire nano fabrication unit here. They could build a microchip right here on campus, and that's that we've been working with them to better secure their environment. And it's fascinating because they have 5 or 6 of these very critical environments, all run by different vendors, and they're not actually allowed to support that technology in-house. Only the vendor can support it. So when it comes to even updating the software, troubleshooting something, we have to provide remote access technologies for the vendors to use, but each vendor has their own separate remote access process. So to them it's secure, right? Oh, we have this one thing the way to do this one thing, but to us it becomes quite insecure because now we have to facilitate 5 or 6 different remote access technologies into a highly critical environment. So we're working with them on that. But one of the neat things too is some of those devices are so sensitive that they have maybe 5 minutes for someone to log in and shut them down because they're very temperature controlled. So if somebody, this isn't, an IT thing where someone says, oh, critical system, you got 30 minutes to respond and 2 hours to bring it back online. No, it's literally down to single digit minutes, where if this machine is not shut down remotely by an authorized individual, it's going to be irreparably damaged because it's that critical. So those are the types of things that we get to be either directly or indirectly involved in. Never mind all the 5,000 servers kicking around that are not tied to research systems.
Yeah, it's definitely a real challenge when you look at the complexity of an environment. Looking around for background content on this, I came across an interview with you, 2023 Canadian Security, and you were talking about how security was more of a business problem than a technology. And so first, thank you for that, because we couldn't find 2 guys that would agree more than Tim and I.
Yes, sir. That's true.
And as you mentioned they could have just sent me an email. I think you've probably got stakeholders that would have been surprised that you're a targeted organization and that you still have to run like an organization. You've got constraints like you mentioned, all the buildings and the staff, 5,000 servers, all that kind of stuff. But there's also regulations and rules and... How did you work through reframing? We're an organization with business-like problems, even if we're not traded on the stock exchange.
Yeah.
And how did you roll that into cybersecurity?
I love that question. So I'm going to turn that back. I'm going to say thank you to you guys. The idea that the security is a business problem, not a technology problem, I think is something that I've heard Tim actually say multiple times when I've heard Tim present it, and I like that. So I would say you guys actually are the ones that really kind of taught me that and hammered it home. But in more than just a statement, I think it's Tim. I've seen you do entire keynotes on that. So it's something that I've brought back internally here. There's a couple different things to unpack. Number one, When we talk about cybersecurity here, one of the best things that we've been able to do is use the University of Alberta as our own example. And what I mean by that is that when we're talking about cybersecurity risks, let's back up. When we're talking about like crossing the road, people know the inherent danger with crossing the road. People know the inherent danger with getting in a vehicle. People know the inherent danger with a sharp knife or arguably a dull knife. People don't necessarily know the inherent danger with a computer and the internet. I've seen many, many, many presentations over the years where people will just do, news headline bombardment, right? This company got hacked and that company got breached and this person fell for that. And I don't typically agree with that approach because it's not very personable, right? It makes it very difficult for the audience member to really relate. The first thing that we do here is we use ourselves as examples, right? So when it comes to educating our audience and we do our security awareness training, or I have to go present in person, every single example that we use is real, that has happened here at the U of A, usually to someone or a group of people that they know. Great example, we had to do a presentation to our procurement team. And procurement is involved in acquiring our technologies, but they also have a process in like shipping stuff out too, because you can buy stuff from the U of A as well. But anyways, the point is, we've seen attacks where people, like threat actors, will pretend to be our procurement team. They will pretend to be the University of Alberta, and they will engage some of our vendors pretending to buy stuff as us. And when you show somebody an email that is not from them, but they know that person, it's usually a boss or 2 levels up, we can say, hey, all of you recognize the name, you recognize this email. This isn't actually your coworker. This is someone else. And they go, oh, wait a minute. It suddenly makes it very real to them because they can literally put a face to the name. It's things like that, right? It's using the University of Alberta, our actual scenarios, our actual issues that we are dealing with every day, and not sort of just relying on these generic messages of hypotheticals. It's things you're actually doing. So that's kind of the first approach I would take. The second one, and you mentioned, you kind of talked about like laws and rules and regulations. We have a very large health faculty that's integrated with Alberta Health Services. The Health Information Act is applicable. I will never fault anybody for not knowing such things, but I will fault them for proceeding anyways when they've been told what they have to do and they kind of ignore it, right? So yeah, there's a lot of rules and regulations around how you can and cannot handle health information. And someone just decides, hey, I'm going to go build out some database and we're going to use it for research. The very first question that we always ask them is, what are the data elements? Mm-hmm. Again, there's a big difference between, it's rock sedimentary analysis data and, this is like patient records, not that, I'm using it as an example. So it is just an education thing and letting people know these are the rules and that you have to follow. Even things like GDPR. Mm-hmm. We're in Canada, but that's applicable to the University of Alberta. And the final one that I'll get on, this is a little more recent. When you are applying for a grant, there's 4 grant issuing agencies at the federal level in Canada, and they are now requiring researchers to, along with their grant application package, they now have to release, I don't know, I'll just say it's something that is all about the university cybersecurity posture. Mm-hmm. That's new and that's different. We haven't necessarily seen that before. So it used to be, we're on the research side, we're not the administrative side. Just kind of let us do our thing and don't get involved. Right. But now it's a federal government thing that's being enforced, where they're now saying, and I don't know if it's blanket across everything or if it's only specific types of research. We're still trying to get that answered. But yeah, if you want to submit a request for grant funding, there has to be something now that says, this is the university security posture, but we don't expect a researcher to know that, nor should they have to, right? That's something that we as an institution are building our processes around so that the researcher can just focus on writing their grant proposal. And when it gets submitted, someone virtually staples all the cybersecurity stuff to it so that it gets evaluated, right? We're not expecting the researchers to know the ins and outs of cybersecurity. So that's newer. That's newer in probably like a 2024, maybe a trail end of 2023 thing. So yeah, lots of different approaches to doing that. And given the size of the institution, you kind of do it in pockets. Yeah. These groups are good, these groups are good, but we haven't started over here yet and still working on this. It kind of never ends.
I wanted to kind of pivot a little bit and ask you both about industry recognition. So I went digging for a little more online detail on Michael's Top 10 Under 40 award. And irony of ironies, right beside it is Tim McCreate recognized at 30th Anniversary Canada Night. I go, if that's not an episode, I don't know what is, right?
Notice I didn't get the under 40, right? I didn't get that one, right? So
yeah, but at least you're in the magazine. I mean, I'd go with that. You know? It's better than I did. So, what does somebody need to change? This kind of maybe give you both an opportunity to answer here. But what do you need to change when your contributions and ideas are being recognized?
Oh, that's a good question. Take it away, Tim.
I'll be honest. I don't think I've changed anything, at least in the last little while. Over the years, I've gotten, I think, more politically astute. Shocking as hell, but I think I've gotten more politically astute. The one thing I've found, though, I don't know if you're feeling the same way, Michael, is that now I take more time now in response. I'm consciously aware now of the stuff that I put out on social media, or of the things that I share, or of the things that I comment on. And for me, it's because I want to make sure that I'm still reflecting the values that got me to where I am today, but that I'm not consciously picking a fight with every audience that I possibly could or would have when I was younger. So I think for me, if anything, age has given me a bit more of clarity where I will take that break. I'll go upstairs and grab a coffee. I'll come back and I'll respond to something, or I'll take my time responding to email responses, stuff on social media. And for me, the one thing that I have stayed true to, and you guys can hold me to account to this, is the message is the same. I've been saying the same thing since 2008. It hasn't changed, right? That security is a business. I run a business unit, it just happens to be security. And the concept of managing it from a risk-based perspective, it's still one of the few things that I remain passionate about in security. It's that concept, right? It's how can I continue to grow my business and enable the program to enable the business. That's always been where I wanted to be in my career. And thankfully I get a chance to do just that now moving forward.
Yeah, I like that answer. I'll come back to it in a second because I agree with it. But I'll tell you guys literally the first thing that came to my mind when you asked the question, and that was that I had to create a whole bunch of new email filters, and I'll explain why. Yeah. I learned about an industry that I had no idea existed, and within a day of like the recognition being published and like the physical magazines and whatnot, I started getting emails from companies they're in the business of like framing awards, and I started getting emails from, hey Michael, congratulations on your award. Look at this product we sell. You can get we will take your magazine and we will spread the glossy across this big, nice mahogany wood frame.
Yep.
Or we'll take it and we'll embed it in this little plaque and, memorize, just to commemorate the occasion. And like, I had no idea that was a thing. And I got probably 3 or 4 companies reaching out and I had no interest in it. I was like, whatever. So I kept the magazine myself. But then 6 months later, some, I don't know, maybe they used a different email or something, but they started coming back. And now it was like, hey, Michael, it's been 6 months, and to summarize the email, it was pretty much like, no one cares anymore. You got to make them care again. What do you think about this? And yeah, so that was my first one. I was exposed to a whole new type of sales and marketing around promotion of public recognition that I didn't know.
I hear you. I had the same. I had like a whole bunch of those. And then do you know what I got too was, and we'd like to interview you on your award for £99. And I'm like, oh, really? Are you serious? And it was just, now let's interview you on your recognition, but for the price of £99, we'll submit this to all these different, I'm like, nah, hard pass.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. And part of that was, it ties into one of the things you said, and that's you can't really control your social, well, I wrote it down that you're more aware of things. You're more aware now of what you say. You're more aware of what's out there. To me, I can't really control. I can control what I produce, but I can't necessarily control what other people's produces. And yeah, same idea, right? Hey, we want to interview you about this. If I've learned one thing about doing certain types of interviews over the years, even with just the media, like I can say 9 things, 7 things will get cut, three will get introduced and the full context is lost. And these types of recognitions made me much more aware of that. So I've also become much more aware of what I'm posting now. Truthfully, I don't post very often.
Mm-hmm.
It was also reflecting on my own personal values and what type of person do I want to be, what type of stuff do I want to produce, what do I want people to be able to see from me. I would say it's really helped develop some relationships with people, but it's also made me realize that people are actually paying attention. And that's something that I learned very early on in my career when I moved into management. Was at that point I had established myself as like a technology expert. But when it came to making business decisions, people just assumed that expertise translated. And I would say something and they'd be like, yep, Michael said it, that makes sense. And every now and then I would say something intentionally wrong just to see how many people around the room would kind of nod their heads, right? You guys know, a little techie, the rot 13, right? Just rotate 13. So they teach you that double rot 13 obviously it just undoes everything, right? If you're going to rotate 13 characters for the alphabet and then you're going to rotate another 13, you're back where you landed.
Yep.
There is no security, right? So I actually said in a meeting once as a joke, I was like, well, if we're gonna encrypt with rot 13, you may as well do double rot 13 because it's twice as secure. And the amount of people around that room that were like, okay, yeah, double rot, then just blindly listen to me. I was like, whoa. So wow. That's kind of just those things people, when you get those awards, people will start paying attention. It's such a silly metric. Like, I don't tend to use social media, but the likes, the comments, the shares, the reposts, they noticeably go up. And it made me realize, holy crap, like people are listening to what I say. Okay, don't say dumb stuff. Yeah. But then it also kind of, really makes me think about what am I going to say? Because people are going to listen to it, not just because of the content, but perhaps because of who said it, right? If Doug Lee says something or Tim McCreight says something, me as Michael, I'm probably just going to blindly believe it because I trust you guys in your expertise. But there's always that risk that you can sit there and pull it back and be like, actually, that doesn't make sense, or that doesn't make sense. So, it was just I think you nailed it there, Tim. It was just being aware of what I'm saying, and holy crap, people actually are listening now. Oh,
I mean, that doesn't apply to my personal life, just so we're clear, right? That's family and friends. That doesn't mean anything to family and friends. They couldn't give a shit, right? But it's at the professional level, absolutely. And do you know what I found too? The one thing that really was interesting for me is it gives you an additional insight into how, for me, like what Doug and I do here with Caffeinated Risk and what I'm doing with Tailcraft, now it's a chance to leverage that to give back, right? Now it's a chance to actually start asking people, hey, what did you think of this? Or what's your perspective? So it's given me a bit of almost like a door opener where I can actually talk to people now. It's like, well, what did you think about that? Or where would you like to go with this? Or what's your perspective? And it's given me some additional insight that I can leverage that now to ask people their perspectives. And it's a chance to get them to start getting engaged in the conversation, which, I may not have had that before in the past.
Yeah. And actually, I really like that because, like, for me, it's a lot of what I say. It's not something that, like stuff I've encountered at the U of A aside. A lot of what I'm saying is what I'm learning from other people that I've learned has made sense and works, right? It's taking something that both of you have said. It's taking something that other people have said, combining it with something that I read in a book. I'm just the one communicating it. And then people look at that and they go, oh, Michael said something. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And I'm like, actually, I'm just the one that's kind of taking all these data sets, combining them and filtering them based on what has worked for me and communicating it. So in a silly way, it's not even stuff that I'm coming up with. It's just stuff that I'm encountering across my day-to-day and speaking about it.
And I think we do need people that can popularize a concept. And if people resonate with how you're communicating, I think it's perfectly valid to say, this isn't my idea, but since you wouldn't read the original paper, here's what it says.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that. So I got one more question for you both, and it's another award question. And to me personally, I'm really proud to say I know 2 award winners in this business. But, Michael, you have the Queen's Platinum Jubilee Medal, and then Tim, you were given the Ron Minion Canadian Security Pioneer Award. Now, both of these are given to people who are making significant contributions to society that, otherwise would go completely unnoticed. Knowing that, what kind of draws you to give your time and effort when you know, yeah, you're probably not going to get recognized for this? It's not like a Grammy or an Academy Award kind of thing.
A good question. I mean, this is one of those things that I learned as a kid, this idea of giving back, and that it's always been about helping others, and you're helping others first before yourself. And the only way that we're ever going to move forward as a profession and get to that space where they think we are professionals is how can we help each other out? That's really what's been driving it. And it's, 44 years of doing this now, and I'm still proud to say that that's the first thing that drives me is how can I help somebody else?
Cool. Michael?
We should, I was just thinking that we should award ourselves. We should start our own, like, Oscars level global. I mean, like the streamers did it, right? Like the video games, they had the streamer awards, the video game industry did it a decade. Now they have the video game awards. We should do that. We should have the global cybersecurity awards.
Yeah.
And I kid, but at the same time, I'm like, that'd be interesting.
There you go.
Yeah, what drives me? That is a question that my therapist has been asking me for the better part of 6 years now. I've been open about mental health stuff, and so I don't mind bringing it up at all. But man, she has asked me that so many times. Why do you care so much? Why do you care so much? Like, why do you care so much? Because with that care comes a whole lot of stress, and giving up a lot of my sanity in the hopes that other people will be better off. And I still don't really have an answer for that beyond, it's who I am. And when I see people that aren't behaving that way, I've just come to recognize that's who they are. That's not who I am. Yeah, I teach here. I don't mention that I'm a teacher. I teach in an advanced network security course, and I love doing it. Why do I love doing it? Because I can stand in front of a room with a whiteboard and just talk cybersecurity to a room full of people that are relatively new to it, and I thoroughly enjoy doing it. I like teaching. I like other people learning things. If I had to say, selfishly, the more people know what I know, the less I have to do.
Yeah.
But that's more of a joke answer. But yeah, I have been asked that question for over half a decade.
Okay.
And I don't have a tangible answer beyond just it's who I am. I don't mind helping people. Cybersecurity, is how would I say it? I love the industry, and it's just, if you ask 10-year-old Michael, what do you want to do with your life? Cybersecurity wasn't even a thing. It wasn't an option. No. So it just the industry just kind of came to be, and I've been able to find it, I guess, or it found me. Yeah, and I think one of the things, though, is that I do believe it is an industry where there are so many people, especially you Doug, you talked about we've known each other since like B-Sides Calgary, kind of the original days. Mm-hmm. And man, when I think back to, there was no community back then. Yeah. There wasn't, right? B-Sides Calgary was the first big cybersecurity. It was the first attempt in the province to let's just see if we can get cybersecurity people in a room. And the answer to that question was, holy cow, we can actually do this, right? And then from that spawned B-Sides Edmonton, which same thing. Can we get 100 people in a room? We're doing good, and we got I think they sold 250 tickets the first year, right? And just to see the community grow and expand, so many people are willing to give. Yeah. So I don't have an answer for you beyond just it's part of my nature, I guess.
That's a wonderful answer. I was born this way. I think maybe that's why you're both so deserving of such recognition. You did it because that's how you're wired. Great learnings from both of you. But is there any one thing you wanted people to know about where you're going, or what you think they should be looking at in 2025 to help move the needle a little more?
I have one. If you want to go first.
Sure, go ahead.
First thing that came to my mind, man, start learning about quantum computing.
Okay.
I've been barking down that tree for 5 years, and I know like if you had asked me 5 years ago, what is the big thing we're going to be chasing in 5 years, I would have said like quantum computing is going to, we know the risk that it poses to modern cryptography, but then AI showed up, and that's a whole other podcast. But if I had to guess, in 5 years from now, what are the problems that this industry is going to have to be solving, and you aren't fortunate enough to have been retired by then, it's going to be that. It's going to be all these discussions around what is the actual risk that these computers are posing to our modern encryption, because that's, if I had to predict anything, That's what we're going to be focusing on. So please start learning. If you're listening to this, start learning about that. Start learning about the risk. You've got some time, but the rate at which this technology is advancing, it's probably not as much as we think. So I'll give you a very technical thing. Yeah, learn about quantum computers.
Okay, cool.
Yep. The only thing I can add to all of this is focus on the human and learn how to defend the human. And that's right out of Win Shorto's book, Start Defending the Human, right? So I had a chance to read it and it scared the hell out of me. So we need to start looking at how do we defend the human, right?
Absolutely, yeah. And if you don't want to read the book, it was about 4 episodes back. It was amazing that he spent some time with us on that.
Yep.
Wow, thank you both so much. Best for the season and best in the new year for sure. And it's been a great time catching up with both of you.
You guys as well. This was great. Thanks for the invite. Love doing this.
You betcha. Thanks, guys. This was awesome. Thank you. Thanks for listening to the latest podcast from Caffeinated Risk. Make sure you visit our website, caffeinatedrisk.com, to stay up to date on what we've been working on. Our website has bios of our podcast guests, posts about topics we're passionate about, and even a library of reference material we find valuable in the work we do every day. And don't forget to subscribe to Caffeinated Risk on your favorite podcast service. This way, you'll be notified when we release our next podcast, and you can listen to our previous guests just in case you missed them. Thanks so much for listening to Caffeinated Risk.